What is going on, YouTube? Welcome to the Living Freed channel. My name is Tyler Freed, and in this video, I'm going to be talking about how I went from a zero net worth to a net worth just over $1 million. How I went from zero to owning a business that if I were to sell it today, I could get over $1 million for that. And yeah, so I'm going to talk about that in this video. If you're new to the channel, I appreciate you for being here. Make sure you stay tuned till the very end, because I am going to be talking about how anybody with the right plan, with the right work ethic, can do what I've done. They won't do it exactly the way I did it, because everybody's situations are different, from where they start, what career path they're going to choose, how they're going to navigate within the industry that they choose to do it in. But yeah, so if you stay tuned till the very end, though, it'll help you regardless of whether you choose to work in the same industry as I do or you work in another industry. These principles I'm going to talk about will work in every single industry, I believe. And because I look at other industries that I could have worked in, and I could see the path in those industries the same way that I've done with trucking. So yeah, most of you that watch my videos are in the trucking business, but this is going to be a video that you could pretty much, like I just said, apply the principles to anything that you want to do. Okay. And that's where a lot of people, I want to start with this. A lot of people think you have to do a certain job or go into a certain industry in order to make great money and build wealth. That's not the case. You can build wealth in almost any industry. You can be successful in almost any industry out there. It's just about your plan, your approach to how you're going to navigate in that business. That's what most of my videos are about, is how to navigate in the trucking business, how I've navigated in a business where people tell you it's a terrible industry to get into, it's a terrible job to do, there's no opportunity in it, there's too much regulation, all the different things that people say about trucking. If I were to listen to those things, then I wouldn't be where I'm at. I wouldn't have a fleet. I wouldn't be worth $1 million already at 30 years old. I wouldn't. If I listened to what the majority of people told me to do, I wouldn't be here. And it's the same thing, whether you're going to get into trucking or not, and you're watching this video, is irrelevant. No matter what career field you go into, you're going to have the naysayers, the doubters, the people that tell you don't do it. And you gotta not listen to those people. It's really tough not to, because groupthink is what 90% of people do. They think like the masses, that the masses think a certain way. And in order to be successful, in order to get yourself out of pretty much poverty to, building wealth and actually having wealth and freedom, you've got to have a contrarian mindset. So anyway, I'm going to get into all that in this video. I just wanted to clarify, though, that this video is for anybody, any career field, anybody. But I am going to talk about my trucking career and, again, how I've gotten to this point, because trucking is the industry I chose to get into. So before I got into trucking, I worked various different jobs. I worked in a different industry before trucking. I worked in the stage lighting business before that, and I did learn a lot working in that industry. I worked in it for a few years, and I learned a lot. I learned how to work hard, but I really wasn't aware as to how to have real success. And so what I did was, at the time when I was working in the stage lighting business, I was learning a ton, like I said, and I was beginning to, educate myself about, business and finance and money and all that, but I didn't have enough education. So I was still kind of just looking at, hey, what career path do I want to go into that I'm going to stick with? Because I knew that, okay, I can be successful at anything I put my mind to, but I need to go learn. I need to go get into a career and get great at that and stick with it for a long time in order to have success. I learned, because I knew a lot of very successful people in the stage lighting business, multimillionaires, and most of them became very wealthy because they picked something, they got great at it, and they stuck with it for a long time. And that's why they made so much money, because they became an expert at their field. And as a young, naive person thinking, man, I don't want to wait that long. I don't want to have that type of patience, yada, yada, yada. I didn't end up sticking with the stage lighting business. Looking back at it, if I would have had the same mindset I have now in trucking, back then I would have made my money in that industry. But I didn't have the right mindset. I didn't have a long-term approach to that business. So what did I do? I looked around for a job where I could make really good money right away, and I had to figure out what my career path was going to be. And so I learned a lot about trucking from doing the stage lighting business. And the reason why is because, of course, all that equipment is delivered via truck. So I got to know a lot of these truck drivers that were delivering this equipment. I used to help set up shows. And when I set up shows, I got to know these guys, and I found out the type of money they were making. And I'm like, man, I can drive a truck. I can do that. And so I just started doing my research about, okay, if I get my CDL first year, I can make, 50, 60 grand a year, and work my way up from there. Right. And so that's what I did. I decided to leave the stage lighting business and go into trucking. And I got my CDL at Millis Transfer. And I drove for them for about 3.5 years. Then I switched over to Crete, drove for them for about 2 years as a company driver. Then last year I switched to being an owner operator. And then I decided to put all my money, pretty much all the money I had accumulated over the first, 6.5 years of driving, I put it all into a fleet just this year. And so now I'm up to 6 trucks, and they're all paid for in cash, debt-free business. And I say that to just give perspective, just to give transparency as to where I'm at. But I just wanted to do a quick little, that's where I started. Here's where I'm at. My first real taste of working was the stage lighting business. When I became, a young adult, official young adult, that's what I did until trucking. And I made decent money doing that, but it wasn't a good long-term path for me. And I wasn't really committed to it. But trucking, when I decided to do that, I decided, no, this is where I'm going to make my money. And I'm going to get into all the habits. Look, don't worry. I'm going to get into all the habits. Because that's what's going to really help anybody watching this video. Because again, the video is how I went from zero to owning a business worth $1 million. And yes, there's a lot of details left out telling you what I just told you, but I wanted to give you a general, hey, here's what I was doing before trucking, and here's what I'm doing, here's where I'm at now. But when I was in the stage lighting business, I learned a major lesson after I got out of it. I learned that the reason I didn't have real success with that is because I wasn't committed to becoming an expert in that field. I wasn't committed to learning everything there is to learn about that business. I also wasn't committed to giving it enough time to get experience and the education that I need to be really successful like the people who were successful in that industry. I wanted the money now. I wanted, to do as little work as possible and get paid the most money. And, that's not how life works. It doesn't work like that in trucking. It doesn't work like that, period. If you're going to have success at something, you've got to go above and beyond with your education and with your work ethic. Look, anybody can drive a truck, but not anybody can go from just being a truck driver to owning a fleet and selling that fleet for millions of dollars. See, I had to not just learn how to drive a truck when I got into trucking. I had to learn about business, about finance. I had to learn about all the different things that affect this industry and make up this industry. I had to become an expert at this industry. And how did I do that? I read books, I watched videos, I constantly educated myself when I got into trucking. I wasn't doing that prior to getting into trucking. I had the talent and everything to be successful in that other industry, but I wasn't committed. And so I quit that because I wasn't having success quick enough. And that's the lesson I learned, is success doesn't come quick. Moral of the story. So what I did, I learned my lesson man, at the time, I'm like, man, I should have stuck with that. I should have stayed in that industry. But, I left it. I'm like, no, I'm going to go do something else. So I decided to, like I said, commit to trucking. And, what I did was change my mindset before I got into trucking. I'm like, okay, you tried that. You didn't stick with it. You pretty much gave up on yourself on that. And that's why you didn't have the success. You also didn't give it the effort that it takes to become great at that thing. So you need to do that with trucking. So before I got into trucking, I said, okay, I know there's good money in just driving, but I don't want to just drive a truck. I don't want to just drive and that's all I do. My goal with trucking before I got in was to start my own business. And, I wanted to, first buy a truck and then grow a fleet. And, in order to do that and do it successfully, I knew, again, that one, I would have to have the experience. I would have to know the industry, be good at the job, but also have the education about business, investing, finance, all the things you need to know about how to run a business, because it's not enough just to know trucking. You got to know about business in general. And, like I said, before trucking, I didn't have that habit. I didn't have that habit of reading books instead of watching television. These are all the habits I changed. Before I got into trucking, I would watch TV. I would drink all the time. I would stay up late. I wouldn't go to classes. I wouldn't, I wasn't taking care of my health. I wasn't going to the gym. I wasn't taking care of myself, not just mentally, but physically, emotionally, spiritually, everything. I wasn't living right. And I didn't have the right mindset, like I said. And if you're that person who's not having success, but you drink all the time, you do nothing but watch sports and politics and TV shows, and you never read anything, you never take any classes to get better, you're blowing all your money, all this stuff, all these negative habits, if that's what you're doing, that's why you're not having success. And I had to realize that. I had to be humble enough to be like, look, dude, if you want to be successful, you got to change all of that. And you got to stop wasting your time with that stuff, because truly successful people don't do those things. So when I got into trucking, I'm like, no, I'm committed. I'm done. I'm not drinking anymore. I'm not watching TV. I'm reading. I'm taking classes. When I'm shut down for the night, or I'm on a 34-hour reset, I'm going to take classes. I'm going to learn about accounting and finance and, business management, all the different things you would learn at a college. That's what I was doing the first 5 years of driving. That's all I would do. I still do that today. While I'm driving, I'm listening to an audiobook. I'm listening to a business podcast. I'm learning constantly. Those are the habits I change. It wasn't the industry I was in. It was me. That's why I was not successful with stage lighting, and that's why I've had success with trucking. Like I said, the point of this video is to talk about how I went from zero to having a business over $1 million, worth over $1 million. Okay. The first thing I had to do, moral of the story, was change my habits. I had to change my habits, my personal habits. So when I got into trucking, I was committed. I'm like, okay, I don't have any money. So when I started at Millis, I didn't have any money. I wasn't in debt. Luckily, I was out of debt. So that was a good head start, that I was not in debt. I was able to pay cash for the school with Millis, because you did have to pay some money to do the school up front. So I was able to pay cash for that, and get through the training, get my license, all that. So I started with Millis, like I said, drove for 3.5 years. I knew I wanted to start a business. I knew that I wanted to own a fleet. I knew that when I started that business, I wanted to have enough money to not buy one truck. I've talked about this before, but to buy multiple trucks, because my goal was not to just own one. My goal was to own a real business and scale a real business. So I decided, look, I'm going to save up. I'm going to take the first 5 years and just drive company, educate myself, fix all these habits that I have that I need to kick. And I'm just gonna drive, make as much money as I can as a company driver, and then I'm gonna save. At least bare minimum was half my income. I was able to save a lot more than that at times, And especially when I started training and I started getting the higher pay rates, and anytime I got bonuses and everything, I'd put 100% of those bonuses away. But moral of the story, I was saving 50 to 60% of my income starting out as a driver, out of debt, starting out when I started at Millis. And again, like I said, I drove for about close to 6 years as a company driver, saving 50, 60% of my income. And that's how I was able to, start. So last year, I bought my first truck, drove as an owner-operator for about 10 months, and then about February of this year, I bought my second truck, hired my first driver. Things went well. I talk about this in the last video, and a lot of you are new to the channel and have probably already heard this, but and then I decided to dump the rest of my savings into scaling the business as much as I could with that. And so now I'm up to, I got up to 5 into April. And then, over since February, I was able to save up enough money to get this 6th truck. But look, none of this would have happened had I not changed my mindset. None of this would have happened had I not changed my work ethic. None of this would have happened had I not believed in myself that it was possible. See, that's what I'm going to end with this. In order to go from 0 to, millionaire, and I want to end with this because this is going to apply to everybody. I tell you all that so that you understand that if you're going to go from 0 to just successful financially, because not everybody has to become a millionaire to be having success. You could just pay off all your debt and that'd be great. The moral of the story is whatever you're doing, is try to do better every single day. Have a plan for your career, have a plan for your life, and work hard to achieve that plan. I'm not telling you can do exactly what I've done, but how did I go from 0 to millionaire? And look, I'm not that smart. I'm not a smart person. I know I'm not the most intelligent person in the world. I know that there's a lot of things I don't know. There's a lot of things I still have left to learn. I'm not where I want to be right now. I haven't reached the finish line, but I know I've come a long way in 7 years since I decided to change my life. Because before I got into trucking, my life was headed in the wrong direction. It really was. That's the truth about my life before this. And I totally changed, like I said, my mindset. You got to do the same thing. If you're going to have success, okay, in trucking or in any other field, in just life in general, you got to have a plan for your life. You got to be disciplined, and you've got to have the right work ethic to stick with that plan. It's that simple. And I know it sounds very generic and everything, what I'm saying, but it's the truth. It's really not complicated how to get out of your bad situation. It's not complicated. It just takes a lot of work and willpower, to be honest with you. And, it's not just the money aspect for me. It's my relationships are better. My spiritual walk is better. My everything is better. Everything, because I decided to change me. And you got to change you. I see a lot of these people. I'm going to end with this. A lot of people think that what I'm saying is not true. They think I'm lying about my situation. They think that everything isn't true that I'm saying. And that's okay. You can believe whatever you want about me. But I know where I started, and I know where I'm at. And that's all that matters. What really matters is how what I do affects my family, number one. Don't really care what y'all think. But number two, the people that think it's not possible that's how I used to think. I used to think, oh, it's impossible to become a millionaire. It's impossible. Only people who inherited that money ever become rich. No, actually, the stats are that 80% of today's millionaires are first generation rich. So what that means is 80% of them did not inherit anything. They started from nothing, and they went from 0 to worth $1 million+ in net worth. Is that possible for you? If you're watching this video, yes, it's very possible for you. You can even get into a basic job like truck driving and go from 0. You could even be in the hole. You can be in debt. You can use that job to get out of debt. You can use that job to have a nice, healthy savings account. and you can use that job to start investing in assets that will eventually replace your earned income. You can do that. You can just drive company for 10 years and become a millionaire. If you save 50 to 60% of your income, shoot, even 25% of your income plus, if you do that for 10 to 20 years, you will retire a millionaire. 100%, you will. And that's just driving a truck. That's not buying a truck, growing a fleet, none of that. And people who tell you that's not possible are morons, to be honest with you. They're morons. They don't know how to use a financial calculator. But how are you going to do all that? Again, I'm ending with this now. I really am ending with this. How are you going to do all that if your mindset is it can't be done? If your mindset is the game is rigged, the system's rigged, you can't get ahead in the system, America's over, I can't be successful. If you believe you can't be successful, you are right. If you believe you can be successful, you are also right. You are also right. Moral of the story is stop listening to losers, because that's what I did. I stopped listening to losers. I stopped hanging out with losers, and I started listening to the most successful people in the world. We live in the information age. We have the internet. You can buy books written by billionaires, multimillionaires, people who have actually had success, and you'll come to find out these people are no smarter than you. They don't work much harder than you. They're just doing certain things in a certain way. And you know, yeah, they do have the right mindset and work ethic to accomplish those goals, to accomplish what they set out to accomplish. And you can learn from them. You can learn from them. Don't just listen to me. Go learn from people who have built mega success, mega companies. You know, that's who you should be listening to. Don't listen to these people telling you it can't be done, because I see it happening all the time. I see it happening all the time. And so do you. So that's my video for today. That's how I did it. That's how I went from zero to $1 million trucking company. And those of you that are going to say that, oh, your business ain't worth $1 million, it's very simple. If you want to know what a company is worth, you take its underlying earnings, annual earnings, multiply it by about 4 to 5 times that, plus the assets, and that'll give you the net worth of the company. And I've done that multiple times, and I know that if I sold this business for anything less than $1 million, I would be an idiot. So that's to the naysayers that are going to say it ain't worth that. Well, you know, learn how to value a company before you make a comment. That's my video for today, though. I know that my true supporters, all of you can have success. You're just getting into trucking. You've been in trucking, but you haven't had success with it. You got to change your mindset. You got to have a plan, and you got to have the right work ethic, and you will have a level of success, 100%. God bless. Thank you for watching, and peace out.